Another tough one for the new look Bucks. This is the new iteration of the Bucks, as Kyle Kuzma said. We'll dig into what he had to say and the Myles Turner game coming up on today's Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bucks. My name is Justin Garcia, joined as always by Camille Davis. You can hear me on the Bucks Radio Network each and every game. You can find Camille on the Locked On NBA show and the Technical Foul podcast as well. We thank you for making this your first listen of the day and for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcasting network in the industry. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So winning, the Bucks did not in Philadelphia last night. It was, at this point, Camille, scores, they don't even matter. It was a lot for Philly to not quite as much for the Bucks. We're at an interesting spot here where I think we all know the drill, and your expectations shift coming into each and every game. So we talked about things that we like and what we wanted to see. One of those things is just, I want to see guys competing. I want to see young guys, and I want to see what we have going forward. And one of those names that we mentioned is Pete Nance, who we saw for 2 minutes last night in garbage time. So we can unpack that in a moment, but we should really start with what we saw from Myles Turner in this game. Liberated Myles Turner, I suppose, and he was efficient from the floor. He played 36 minutes. He wasn't, oddly enough, wasn't just standing in the corner. That wasn't the way they opted to use him today, and it paid off. 31 points, 10 of 16 shooting. That included 5 of 5 in the paint and 6 of 8 on his twos. So you do the math. He shot 50% on threes at 4 of 8. It was an effective Myles Turner, 2 blocked shots. Again, that's clearly the biggest takeaway from this game, and it's a 1-game sample size that we're looking at. Kyle Kuzma had some interesting thoughts we'll play in just a moment, but I mean, does it make you reevaluate at all? Like, not have we been using him incorrectly, because I think the jury,
we know the answer to that.
The jury's finished their deliberation on that, but does it make you question, like, does this fit as well as we thought with a paint heavy player in Myles Turner who can stretch the floor? Myles Turner showed out his career, and in this one game, at least, like, it's more than just sitting in the corner and taking above the break threes.
I think for me, the takeaway from this game was throughout the season, it has seemed as if Myles Turner looked better next to Giannis in situations. And when he was not on the floor with Giannis, it was kind of like, well, we're
not adjusting how we're using him.
Yes. Yeah. So to see him in this game against Philly, where he seemed to be like a focal point offensively, he was very aggressive with his touches, even where he got his shots. He had a beautiful role early in that first quarter where he had, I think, 12 points in the first quarter alone, where he really got the scoring going. Like, he was able to touch paint. He was still shooting the threes. He was just a lot more aggressive in how he was used. And I really enjoyed seeing him be the role man a little bit more, being around the basket, being on the elbows, and not just sitting in the corner the entire time. So for me, it was one of those performances where I was like, hey, this is kind of interesting, because he's having a fantastic game here without Giannis on the court offensively. And I think the last time I said that about Myles was the Miami game, when they used him to, like, they played through him offensively because they knew Miami was going to switch. Miami was small. There was no Giannis in that game either. So it was like, go attack the mismatches, be aggressive. And he did that. And I was like, why aren't we trying to do this a little bit more often? But again, the flow of the offense is going to be different with Giannis out there, given the fact that he just has so much control over the game, the gravity that he has when the ball is in his hand. But that was a positive. That was one guy I don't think we named on yesterday's show. Like, hey, who are you looking to see more of going forward as this season continues without Giannis, for however long we're without Giannis? And to see Myles Turner have this type of performance was encouraging. And I also loved hearing from him after the game, make mention of the fact like, hey, I know an area I need to continue to improve. Even though I had a good game offensively, I have to rebound better. And that was an Achilles heel for this Bucks team against the Sixers.
So Kyle Kuzma talked a little bit about both of those topics. Rebounding specifically, I mean, who thought here we are that Kuz is the guy you want to hear from the most, because it does feel like he gives you the most honest, thoughtful answers to questions. He was very candid and said, look, we knew. I'm pretty sure Philly's a bottom 10 team in rebounding, and we let them kick our butts. And basically everything that we could see and that you wanted to hear was, well, this just happened and yada, yada. Like Kuz was, no, we weren't good and we have to improve that. But the Myles Turner piece specifically, what we just discussed with the usage for Myles Turner, Kyle Kuzma and players on the court can certainly see that and know what their peers are capable of, and things like that stand out to them as well. And that was certainly the case from Kyle Kuzma.
I mean, he was a big reason why I had the amount of assists I really had, just being somebody that can stretch the floor and, get him involved. He hasn't really been involved this year from an offense perspective outside of, typical kind of kick out threes. But me and him had some pretty good synergy of, him pick and rolling from half court and me just trying to get downhill and knowing that he's going to be there. And I even had him on a couple of rolls too. So I'm happy for him. Played a really good game, and I bet it felt good for him because he hasn't really been involved too much. So
he's honest.
He is very honest. I will grant Kyle Kuzma that. And even I was most startled by it worked on a couple of rolls, because I didn't think Myles Turner was a roller. I thought that's
that was Sims' job. Yeah,
we're playing. Yeah. Speaking of Jericho Sims, we saw him in this game, and we did not see Pete Nance. So there was an answer for that from Doc Rivers after the game, which we will get to. We do have to take a look, not even in the rearview mirror anymore. You look through the windshield and you see a new team. And the latest on what that means for the Bucks draft odds and the lottery we'll get to a little bit later in the show. And also, we're not going to skip over it. The comment that took off like wildfire in the pregame, the context behind it, and thoughts on what that was. We'll get to that and the absence of Pete Nance coming up in our next segment here on Locked On Bucks.
I carry a lot of responsibility in my household. If something happened to me, there would be serious consequences. We have a mortgage. We got tuition. We got everyday bills. Those aren't going anywhere if something happens to me. And I know that's an overwhelming feeling, but I'm taking steps to protect my family by getting life insurance through Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast, easy, and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. And as of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. Ethos has 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 3,000 reviews. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/lockdownnba. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get your free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/lockdownnba. That's ethos.com/lockdownnba. Ethos.com/lockdownnba. Application times and rates may vary.
All right, Camille, and it's approaching that time of year. Trade deadline season just over a week away. We want to give you a free month of our new Everydayer Club to help you get ready. If you need a group chat to keep up with the chaos, then join ours. The Everydayer Club gets you access to that group chat on Discord for Locked On Bucks subscribers and Bucks fans. Plus, you get national chats where you can just hang out with fans across the league, see the latest on other deals that are happening and the ripple effects that are there through the trade deadline. You also get ad-free versions of Locked On Bucks if you sign up by the trade deadline, February 5th. Use the code DEADLINE to get your first month free. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more. And we were both hanging out in the Discord a little bit yesterday after the game. We're still discussing a few perks to add to that for the everydayers that we've had joining us on Locked On Bucks in the Discord chat. And I think we found a few winners that will start to slowly roll out here for those of you with us on Discord and in the Everydayers Club. All right. Jericho Sims.
Yes.
Go on. No. Jericho Sims played 11 minutes yesterday. 0 shots.
Mm-hmm.
1 rebound.
Mm-hmm.
2 fouls. 2 turnovers, which were all timers.
Loud turnovers.
And I think it was Nathan Marzian that clipped them together and put it on a reel to finish minus 11 in those 11 minutes of work. So not the greatest from Jericho Sims. Meanwhile, Pete Nance, who, I will fully acknowledge, and I think most Bucks fans should, it's the newest toy that we fall in love with. It's not to say that those toys aren't great toys. Like same was said for Ryan Rollins, and we've seen, okay, this is something here. But there is that piece of skepticism of, well, all right, it's another young guy that we're bringing up, and we've done this before. He's had some nice games, but I think it's beyond nice games. Like we've talked about winning plays that Pete Nance has displayed, and just, he's a guy that 25 years old, he's a guy that can play multiple positions. I mean, I think they list him technically as a power forward, but he's a tweener, like 3, 4, 5 type guy, has the ability to shoot. It may take a little bit for that shot to get up, but there's a lot of nice pieces here, and basketball is in his blood. It's a guy that you look at and you say, we should see at this point in the season, what can we develop out of him? He had a stretch of 5 straight games where he was playing relatively heavy minutes, those last 3 especially, the Hawks, the Thunder, and the Nuggets games, and he looked pretty good. He was +1, +6, +13, +3, +2, and those last 3 were 15, 30, and 12 minutes. And then you come to Philly, a team that he was on previously before joining the Bucks. No Giannis, your best player, and more size that's down. Moving Bobby Portis into the starting lineup. So you remained, and by the way, I think you mentioned that when we said, who do we think they're going to start?
Mm-hmm.
It was Bobby Portis. So you didn't have a whole lot of options off the bench. Pete Nance, in theory, was one of those, but we didn't see him until the final 2:23 of the. What are we doing here?
A question that needs answers, because I was under the impression, that minutes are earned. And what we saw from Pete Nance deserved minutes on the floor, not 2. And the idea, because I watched the game on delay. We've mentioned this before, but Tuesdays I record technical files. So like we had the game on in the studio, we're recording live, but we're not able to watch. And I said,
it's coming to you this morning, Wednesday morning, the recap, because surprisingly, with my post-game duty is on radio, this wasn't a game that motivated Frank to want to stay up until like midnight to start recording.
And it was they're like the third quarter. I just said, have any of y'all seen Pete Nance like at a glimpse in this game yet? And everyone, I don't think we've seen Pete Nance in this game. And when I was leaving, I turned the radio broadcast on and listened to on my way home. And I sent you and Frank a message like, is Pete Nance played yet? Like we didn't get until garbage time. And I was so confused because like I said, minutes are earned. And I think that what we've seen from Pete Nance, he earned minutes, especially now without Giannis on in the rotation. I don't understand the why behind it. And even the answer that we got as to why Doc went with Sims over Nance, I don't necessarily know if I don't think that was a good enough answer. I'll just put it like that.
It was not a good enough
Not
answer.
good enough.
I mean, it's a delicate spot for me, but come on. There's 37 games left. He needs to play heavy minutes in those 37 games. Yep. He's a two-way guy that you need to see
what he can do.
Right. Like, is this just like Ryan Rollins? Is this a two-way we need to upgrade? And he becomes a rotational player for us next year. Not that, rotational doesn't mean he's your sixth man or a starter, but just, is this a guy that's part of your rotation? Was it just a nice little 3 to 5 game stretch that we saw? Is there more to it than that these are the questions you need to answer in these final, 35 games, 37 games
36, I
that
think
they
now.
have. I mean, we can continue to talk about competing for the playoffs all we want. And I get that's the message that from the top down you have to convey for obvious reasons, even though internally the discussions may be different. I would hope to God internally the discussions are, who are the guys we can continue to develop, right? What do we have in Pete Nance? Let's try to use him in different spots. I mentioned on yesterday's show, it's very limited, but there were some possessions where Pete Nance played the three. Like, do we think he can actually hold up there? What does he look like playing alongside other bigs? What are the minutes and what are the types of centers that he can play against? What are the best offensive groupings for him defensively? How impactful is he? These are all the things we need to see for these final. Look, even if it's not in the short term, because there's still this augmented reality of like, well, we can still get into this part of the standings. Fine. But the final 25 games, by that point, you're going to know.
Yep.
And from that point forward, it should be viewed as excusable to not have these types of guys featured in heavy minutes, to not have, what does Pete Nance with Myles Turner look like?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Eric talked about it too, but what you have to do from here on out is look at the guys that you know are a part of your future. Ryan Rollins, Myles Turner. Find out if Pete Nance is one of those guys. AJ Green. Like, how do all these guys fit together? What's the best usage for them? So we can apply that into the offseason and see how do we continue to build out this roster. But I think we have seen more than enough. And you could say, okay, with that same logic, should not you be doing the same with Jericho Sims? In theory, yes. But the reality is, it's been a full year. And I think we've seen enough to know what Jericho Sims is. I mean, even guys like Andre Jackson Jr., which we had the discussion last year and earlier this year of like, it just kind of feels like Jericho Sims is the new Andre Jackson Jr. Only Andre Jackson Jr. is far more effective defensively. Like Jericho Sims is just an undersized big that can move his feet well. Even Andre Jackson Jr., like, okay, let's see if we can dust this thing off and find a spot that works for this guy too, and see some of these minutes. But that is how, once this really slips away, that is how these games need to be played down the stretch.
Yep.
But to not play Pete Nance until the final 2 minutes of this game with those flashes that you showed, and the fact that you are down another big, to me, it's inexcusable at this point.
Yeah, and for those who weren't aware of the answer from Doc as to why he went with Sims over Pete Nance, his answer was that he wanted to go with more size in this matchup against Philly. And Jericho Sims has Pete Nance by about 1 inch and 25 pounds, according to their official listing. So, like, sure, I guess that is a little bit more size than what Pete Nance can offer you. But again, Pete has earned those minutes. And even to the Andre Jackson Jr. part, in the flashes we've seen him this season, one thing about his game where I can say that I see at least some growth, he's not as scared to take the shots as he has been in past years. And for a team, as we've talked about, that has it does not have enough size on the wing. With where we are in this season, again, I don't understand why you don't even just throw him out there. It doesn't have to be 20 minutes a game, but like, what does he look like in a short? Give him 5-10 minutes. Let's see what it looks like early on in the game. If he has it, you keep it rolling. If not, then you move on to the next guy. But like at this point in the season, you said when we get to 25 games, you'll know for sure. But like, if we're being real here, like we can see the writing on the wall of where this season is, where it's going, especially without Giannis for the next 4 to 6 weeks at the very least. So I don't understand why not. Why not give him the shot to do that? See if he can continue to earn more minutes on his limited time on the court. But it's just, I don't know. Some of the just questions around the rotation, questions around the operation still exist.
Yeah, I mean, the size that you needed, we saw 1 minute of Jericho Sims on Joel Embiid. We saw 2.5 minutes of him on Adem Bona. I mean, and look, and the other thing to point out about Andre Jackson Jr. is what continues to stand out to me And you can say, like, well, that's your job. You should do it. And yeah, I largely don't disagree with you, but I'm just telling you, it's not 100% that you see this throughout the league. But the fact that he has been removed from the rotation, he dealt with an offseason of hearing he's not going to make the team and having that uncertainty. And every single time you put him on the floor, you know he's going to play hard. And I just go back to what David Adelman said before this game on Friday night when the hospital unit Denver Nuggets took it to the Bucks for the second time this season. And David Adelman said, I don't know who we're going to start yet, but I do know whoever we put out there to start and to play, I know those 5 guys are going to play hard. And that's how you get to, what are they now? 9-6, I think.
Yeah.
Games without Nikola Jokic. That's how you do it, is to play hard. And there are some guys that give you that. There are some guys that don't have to give you that because of their talent of like, well, I'm not going to play hard every single time. But Andre Jackson Jr. is one of those guys that plays hard. And when you're undermanned and the underdog and you're the team that opponents see, which the Bucks have probably been guilty of multiple times this season, that you look and you just see out. It sets in mentally of, okay, we got this. And the way you win those games is by playing hard. And that is what the Bucks have been missing for this season, last season, the year prior to that. I mean, it's been quite the change since that 6-year run that this team had. Okay, the comments on talent. We will address those and take a look at the standings because something has changed. We'll get to that discussion coming up next. Well, it is time now, that time of year, to talk to you about your taxes. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life this year. TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. So instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online, and they'll handle everything. W-2, self-employed forms, and work you get every deduction taken out on. You can upload your documents, go about your day, get the updates right in the TurboTax app. A huge time saver, giving real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling all of it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert did not file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sports book partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, before the game, you've probably seen the tweets. You found it on social media, the transcripts of wait, what? And probably scrolled by again and had to read it. I know Eric put it out there and a few others. Doc Rivers before the game said that Joel Embiid is the most talented, probably the most talented player that he has ever coached. Now, at the risk of ticking off a lot of people, I don't disagree with him. I'm not trying to make this a Giannis versus Embiid debate again, because Giannis is the clear winner there. Giannis is a very talented player, and Giannis is definitely a much harder worker than Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is more talented. When you look at a guy his size, the things that he can do, his shooting ability, all of it, you can complain about the grifting, but Joel Embiid is an incredibly talented player. I think at worst, he and Giannis are as talented as one another. But again, I think Giannis is the better player, all of it. I think Joel Embiid does have more talent. Giannis, what makes it more impressive for Giannis is the work he puts in to say talent doesn't matter at this point. Not that I don't have any, but I'm still going to be better than you in that sense. So fine. You can give that answer in the summer. You can give that answer down the road when you're asked about, hey, who are the most talented players that you've coached? And it wasn't even a yes or no. Is Joel Embiid the most talented player that you have coached question? The question was, hey, you coached Joel for years here in Philly, and now you're seeing after a really rough stretch of health, things are starting to turn around for him. And he's looking much better. I think we've all realized he's never going to be the MVP version again, but he can still be pretty good. So how do you feel seeing that? And that's how he answered him. Yeah, it feels good. He's probably the most talented player that I've ever coached. We just never had him in the playoffs. Like, my guy, now's not the time for that, especially with another uber talented player that you've coached that you haven't had in the playoffs this year, and you didn't have in the playoffs 2 years ago.
I am thankful for that context, because when I saw the quote floating around of Doc just saying, Embiid is the most talented guy I've ever coached, my first question was, what prompted him to say this? Like, what was the question that led to Doc going on and saying, hey, he's the most talented guy I've ever coached? And to hear the question was just around, hey, Embiid's been getting better and he's starting to look more like Embiid of old, while not the exact MVP version, but you can see he's getting healthy. You can see the pop in his step. I mean, we could see it as fans watching this game with his performance in the first quarter. Like, he came out the gates swinging in this game. The man had 6 offensive rebounds in the first quarter. Like, and most of them were the quick, like, I'm at the rim, I'm getting it, didn't get it back, get it. But still, he had 18 and 7 in the first quarter alone in this game against the Bucks. So to hear the context around the why he responded that way, I'm even more confused as to why he chose to respond that way with the way this season has been unfolding for the Bucks, with everything that's going on with this team, the noise around it. It just seems like, while it might be how he feels and true, so to speak, not the time and the place for that particular part of the answer, but it's out there now. I was very confused around it. I'm still confused as to why he chose to respond to it that way. But yeah, it just continues to add on to the feeling of just how odd and weird this season has been for Milwaukee so far.
There's another tweet that's out there that I would just say, if you want to see it, see it. I'm not going to go in on the coach or coaching staff here, obviously, given my standing. But there's another tweet from Sixers Adam, who you have, if you follow the Sixers, you know who he is. He's a part of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast, where Paul George was asked about his success against the Bucks. Have you seen this one, Camille?
I did.
He games played this season, and talked about some of the schemes that he goes up against and knows what to expect and what to look for. So that's a big reason. And Paul George, by the way, 9 threes in that game.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other thing to come from last night is you're now 12th in the Eastern Conference. You can see it on Camille's profile there. Charlotte Hornets have now moved past you. And we talked about it yesterday, I think. Like, look, at this point, it is a matter of time before Charlotte catches you. It took 12 hours, and the Charlotte Hornets have now caught the Bucks for 11th in the Eastern Conference. So you slide down to 12. I do think that's the bottom point for the Bucks. That's as low as the slide in the Eastern Conference will go. I just have a hard time seeing the Brooklyn Nets, the Wizards, and the Pacers past the Bucks in the standings. You're +9 in the loss column against the Pacers. You are +7 in the loss column against the Wizards. Nets +6. I mean, it's still, it would take not just like it's not as simple as, well, you don't think the Bucks can lose that many games? No, but are those other teams going to win enough in
Right.
conjunction with you losing the games? And I just don't think that's going to be the case. So 12th in the East is probably what the floor is going to be for the Bucks. And in reality, that would, I think, 6th worst record in the league is also your floor. Sacramento and New Orleans are the 2 Western Conference teams.
Not
And
gonna
I
catch
just
them.
don't see you catching. Utah's not that far behind the Bucks, but 6th or 7th worst record is probably where you're going to stand. You do got to keep an eye on Dallas and Memphis if they decide, should we just pack this in too? So those are teams that could potentially slide down there. But that's what we're probably looking at, is the Bucks approaching the offseason with somewhere around the 6th to 8th best odds of winning the lottery. I mean, the ideal scenario, if we are to assume you're not going to make the playoffs, and again, as of this moment, the Bucks are now 2 games back in the loss column of the Hawks for the 10 seed, but in the standings with games played, you're 3.5 back. Like, that rope is almost completely out of your hands at this point. So ideally, you end up with a 2nd pick in the draft. Basically, you cannot have the number 1 pick because of that pick swap. And we've talked about Tankathon quite a bit. I ran it a few times last night.
Yeah.
Everything I came up with had the Bucks around like 6th, 7th overall pick. I suppose fine, right? Because the absolute disaster scenario is the Bucks win the lottery,
Right.
and the Pelicans get passed by like 3 teams and slide down even further, where Bucks then get the 1 pick, and you would be drafting like 7th or something.
Yeah, that would definitely be the worst case scenario. But again, this might be one of those seasons where, again, the intention for this team was not to be here. But now that it is, maybe you get some good fortune when the lottery balls start to bounce around and you figure out where you're going to be drafting at. And that's, again, how I'm watching this game. Like, when I saw the Hornets pass the Bucks, Hornets on a 3-game win streak, Bucks on a 3-game losing streak, and there you go, you're flipped in the standings. It's the game against Philly is kind of like what I want to see, where it's like, give me the effort, compete. Let's see what some of these guys can do. We'll have like to see more Pete Nance in the game, but let's see those guys compete. And if they lose the game, it is what it is. Like, it's hard for me to cheer for my team to lose. Like, I don't like that. Even in the season when they only won 15 games and you're starting to keep your eye to the lottery and you're like, hey, is it going to be Joel Embiid or Jabari Parker or Wiggins that the Bucks can get in this draft coming up? I didn't even necessarily cheer for the losses, but it was similar to now where it's like, who on this team can the Bucks retain to go for it? Who are guys on this roster that could be part of this team, a winning version of this team in years to come with additional talent added to the roster? And that's where I'm at with this group as well, although there's just so much more noise around this season, this version of it, because of the Giannis factor and what all that means and his health and his future. But it's best case scenario now at this point where it's like, compete, show us something, and then if you lose, hey, you move on to the next game. But like I've said before, the players on this team, they're not here for no tank. Like, the players on that court, they're going to be trying to win the game. And that's what I want to see from my team. I want to see competition. I want to see things that make me cheer for you along the way. But with the reality of this season, I also want a good draft pick for this team, and with the swaps attached to it, keep an eye on New Orleans and what they're doing, while also watching the Bucks. So 12th in the East, if you would have told me that in the offseason, I would have been like, what went, like, what is,
Well, 12th in the East approaching February.
Exactly.
Right?
At this point in
the
the year,
Bucks were 12th in the East last season and the 2-8 start. And like, even look at the Clippers, right? I mean, my God, 16-3 since the week before Christmas. And they're going to go from, what was it, 5-21 to being above 500 before you know it. That's been the jarring thing with this group. As you mentioned, the players are going to go out there and try to win every single night. We're going to still come out here and try to do the same on this show. And probably start to continue to lean further and further into the bigger picture view for this team. We didn't get to it today. I think it deserves its own discussion, but there are a lot of parallels to be drawn between those two teams that played last night, and to look at what Philly went through as a team, Joel Embiid as well, some of the swings they took that didn't work, and how they recovered from this with young talent and with basically shutting down their superstar and saying, no, we got to get the knee right, and then we'll gradually build you back up to see where it is. And, look where they are now, a team that who we're still a ways away from the playoffs, but they're a team that can win at least a series in the first round and beyond potentially. So we'll start to get into those discussions here in the coming days. The trade deadline as well, just over a week away. We'll see what happens there for the Bucks and the rest of the Eastern Conference. And I think more importantly, too, what doesn't happen. And if that is a tell for the summer for a lot of teams. So we'll get into those discussions here over the course of the next week or so. Again, we want to remind you about the Discord channel that Camille and I are both a part of. You can get access to it when you sign up to become an everydayer, to get in there for the discussion during the trade deadline. We've discussed some things that we're toying around with, like an AMA or even like a happy hour of sorts for the everydayer, where we send the Zoom link exclusively to you guys, and you can hop on a call with myself and Camille, maybe even Frank, and we'll see what other friends we can pull into this in the Bucks orbit. So all those types of things we're looking to add here and to get you those perks if you sign up to become an everydayer. You can find the link to do so in the episode description of today's show. Thanks as always for tuning in to Locked On Bucks. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to preview the thorn in the Bucks side, the Washington Wizards, and your final game in DC against that team and our old pal Chris Middleton. Make sure you subscribe and follow the show so you get all the latest episodes. You get notified when we go live as well. For those of you on video, we now send you to the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make that your second listen. NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. That'll do it for today. For Camille, I'm Justin. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow on Locked On Bucks.